Have you started using AI to do the programming, but then you are also realizing that you are burning too many tokens? Most of the time, the token burnout mainly happens because the LLM is trying to search for the relevant files, folders, and functions to really make a sense of how your code base works. To some extent, you can of course help the LLM by creating a tree structure of application folder. What do I mean by that? For example, something like this, where you have a application and then you have a readme file, and in that particular readme file you try to basically explain LLM that this is the folder structure that you are maintaining. This is fine, but the problem is you are hoping that whatever the agents and everything that you have declared, it actually goes through this very properly and doesn't miss out anything. And another biggest headache is you have to keep this particular thing very up to date. So how do you solve this particular problem? And that is where Graphify comes into picture. What is Graphify? It is a open source framework. You can basically create graph like structure which the agents, skills, and whatever the LLM framework that you have created can become Graphify enabled to basically navigate through your folder structure. And this is supported by across all platforms. You can see here that it is supported by Cloud, Codex, GHCP, that is GitHub Copilot, pretty much every framework that is out there. And if you install this, then instead of relying on this kind of a structure to navigate the whole code, you can use something like this. This is what the Graphify actually creates, and it looks beautiful. And not only that, it has much more information. So what it basically does is it goes through your whole code base, all the files, all the structures and everything, and then it tries to establish a relationship between various files, various folders, the calls, function calls, and everything. Say for example, let's take here this particular thing. There is this thing called as article service. Article service basically calls get related articles function. So that is the function that is there in the article service. And then there is something called as increment view count. So this article service is basically using all these functions. So in a way, it becomes very easy to establish the relationship between how these things are interrelated to one another. And it creates a very beautiful clustering related information in this. And you can actually move these things in a better way to view them in a slightly better visual reference. These lines basically indicate what Graphify is 100% sure that it identifies the relationship. But sometimes you will also see some lines where they are not really having a solid line. They have a dashed line. That dashed line means basically it doesn't really is able to figure out what is the correlation, and that is a little bit ambiguous. So you can basically once again ask the LLM to do this. How the LLM knows about it? Of course, you can install the Graphify skill. So then your repo basically becomes Graphify enabled. And not only that, you can even identify some of the completely unused code that might be lying there. For example, this is a file which is not being used anywhere. So this is like probably a dead code which is not being invoked by anyone. Something that needs to be paid attention to. Then you can also only focus on the things that you are interested in. You can select the specific communities. The right part that you are looking at, they are basically called as communities. When you run a Graphify, it automatically identifies these communities. So you should be able to individually pay attention to the individual communities and then go in there and try to identify what the relationship is. You personally might never be going through all of this, but if you enable your repo with Graphify, then the biggest advantage with this approach is you can save a lot of tokens. Because one thing there will be a skill called as Graphify refresh, which allows you to refresh this thing every now and then whenever you want. So you don't have to manually fix these connections. It will be done automatically through a Python script. And then another thing is all the effort that LLM puts to navigate itself through the code base and guess and figure out how things are interrelated and then come up with a proper mechanism to write the code. Whole effort that the LLM puts to discover the code will be significantly reduced. There is a claim that almost 70 to 80% token reduction happens when you start using Graphify in a code base. So I have recently started using Graphify in personal large code bases that I have, and I am actually seeing huge difference in the overall performance that I get while coding. So I had another repository which I wanted to enable with Graphify, and why not do it in front of you guys and show how the Graphify setup will actually look when done very freshly in a particular repo. So let's get into it very quickly. So this is the code base that I have. Don't worry too much about what the code base is. Right now, I have a README file, and that particular README file has a lot of structure of the folders and files and everything. And instead of relying on this, I want to basically use Graphify. And to do that, I will be using Codex. You can use anything for that matter, but I am going to use Codex. And initially to start, I had asked a question, is Graphify is available? But I think I wrote a small typo. So let me just copy this and cancel this and ask it again. Is Graphify set up in this particular workspace? So it will basically check because I have already installed the Graphify on my machine. How did I install that? The installation procedure is available on the Graphify GitHub page, and I actually asked Codex to follow that and install it. So it has been already installed as a global skill. So you can see that it says that Graphify out is not ready. What do I mean by Graphify out folder is not ready? If you go here in this particular folder, when you run a Graphify, it creates a Graphify out folder, and in that it basically creates graph.html file is what you are actually seeing. So this folder is not yet ready in this particular new repo structure. So that is what we will have to create. So what we will do is we will ask it to set up the Graphify. Set up the Graphify for this particular workspace. And all you will have to do is just hit enter and wait for it to complete its work. This is going to take some time, so you will have to just relax a bit here. If you want to have a coffee, go have a coffee and come back. It is asking, do you want to allow Graphify official open AI backend dependency to this workspace? Yes. And right now I am intentionally using 5.5 medium effort because ideally speaking, it should not take too much of an effort. If necessary, then probably we will use high and extra high if needed. So you can see that it has recognized around 1563 nodes, these many edges, and 83 communities. So now it wants to create the cluster. So let's go ahead and give it a permission. Yes, it wants to create a local workspace. People do sometimes run with full access, but I don't do that. It wants to install Graphify CLI. That would be needed by the OpenAI LLM. So it's better to install it. So it says that it has created everything. So it should create a Graphify out folder. Yes, it is there. And here is the HTML file. So let me just open the HTML file in the browser. Yeah, these are the newly created Graphify nodes. And you can see that there are some duplicate entries here, that is package initialization, all those things. Those can be sanitized again. How can you sanitize it? I can basically now simply say I have observed that there are a couple of duplicate nodes, package initialization. Why is that? Ideally speaking, there should be unique nodes and communities. Can you audit? Tell me the reason why this is happening. And I can actually increase the thinking capacity to high, and let us see what is the reason it gives. The graphic does not. Then what I suggest is I will ask it to plan it. I want you to basically remove this repeated community names that is misleading without breaking the existing code. How do you plan to fix this? Propose a solution. And as you can see, this time I'm running it in a plan mode because I don't want it directly start editing. So I just want to review it and see whether I feel like agreeing to it and then decide. And if you are wondering which particular code base is this, it is the same application code of YouTube agent that I had created to automate content creation workflow for my YouTube channel. I have actually created a video on it. You can check it out. Should the fix only correct the current generated graph or also prevent duplicate community names after future full Graphify rebuilds? I think I will go for a durable guard. So let me select the first one. So here now it is creating a plan on how it wants to fix this particular problem. Let me quickly go through this.
A few moments later.
Yeah, I think I agree to this. Implement this plan. Usually, initially, you have to be a little bit patient to set it up. It doesn't always work out in a one go. Sometimes you will also see that it doesn't actually create a proper working community names here. You will see something like community 1, community 2, community 3, and if there are around 2000 communities, it creates community 1 to community 1000, like a whole series of communities. So in that case, you will probably have to sit with LLM to curate those community names in a better way and not just in one single pass. Probably you will have to do it in multiple passes. But that time is worth spending because once you do that, it really helps later. If you are working as a single developer and you don't want to really share it across a team, then you can git ignore it, or it's perfectly fine if you commit it to the git. I have seen both ways people do it. So you can see that it has completed its work. Now let me just refresh this and I should not see any duplicates. Yeah, that got fixed. So the earlier problem that we were seeing here where there were a couple of duplicates here, those are gone. But we are not done yet. We have created the communities and now we have resolved all the problems that were there earlier. But what we have to do is whatever the agents and skills that we have created here in the codex or cloud code, those will have to be enabled with Graphify. Otherwise, what is the point if those agents are not utilizing the Graphify skill to navigate themselves and do their work? Now, how do we fix that particular problem? Not an issue. We will just ask LLM to do it. We have skills agents that are already created in this particular workspace, full stop, but they are not yet Graphify enabled to fully utilize enabled. I want you to audit the existing skills and agents and then come up with a plan on how those skills and agents can be augmented with the Graphify skills so that the development can happen in this repo utilizing the Graphify capability. Of course, there are some typos. Let me fix those things. And initially, I will run it in the plan mode. So always run it in the plan mode whenever you are doing something very complicated because you really want to understand the thought process of what LLM is proposing to do. So let's go ahead. So you can see that it is seeing the integration gap that Graphify queries are not being used. So then now it will go through all the skills agents that we have created in this particular repo and will come up with a mechanism to add the necessary changes so that Graphify will be used later. In my repository, I always work across multiple frameworks like OpenAI Codex, Cloud, and Copilot. So I have created it like a cross-platform repository. So I want to even augment Graphify in such a way that I can use it seamlessly across different platforms. So I will go ahead with the cross-platform repository. How strongly would agents be required to use refresh? Yes, I once again want to do it pre and post gates. So I will go with the recommendation. So let it do its work and let's see what changes it has done. You can see that it has added the agents when user types Graphify, use install Graphify skill, and then it has created instructions how to use Graphify in that. And hopefully it should update couple of more skills and agents with this structure. So it is asking read-only agents currently cannot execute Graphify query. How should they obtain the graph context? Context analyst agent. Let's use that. Maybe it is trying to create a sub agent for gathering the context. So it is coming up with a plan. Let it complete. Let me go through the plan. Yeah, sounds all right. Implement this plan. And it has created multiple steps. Add shared Graphify skill, wire all existing agent and skills to Graphify first workflows, update the cross-platform guidance, and run static tests. So let it complete its work. And as you can see here, some of these lines have dotted lines. And it shows that when you click on that, it says it is inferred. It is not sure, it is inferred. So this is not like a solid line. So what you can do is you can ask it to filter out dashed lines and ask the LLM to audit those dashed lines and then come up with a solution and a plan on how to fix those, because the more solid lines that you have in your Graphify, better it is. So don't directly start using whatever the first pass Graphify graph it gives you. You have to spend some time to basically sanitize it and make it work. And of course, you can ask LLM to do this. So use LLM as like a senior developer, asking questions, queries, clarifications until and unless you are 100% satisfied. One very good thing about LLMs is they don't get pissed off for asking too many questions. You can keep asking until you are satisfied with the reasoning. And I think I will be doing that in the offline mode to be able to actually make it work properly. So you can see that it is doing another refresh as a part of this thinking process. So that's good. It will reduce the uncertainty. And depending upon how big is your repo, you might initially consume lot of tokens with this. So be wary of that. So you can see that it has started modifying agent files, copilot instructions, architect agent, workflow steward agent. So these are the sub agents that I had in my repo. And then the skills are getting updated with the Graphify capability. Yeah, that's exactly what I expected. The skill with implementation of the LangGraph node is updated with Graphify. Yeah, this is exactly what I expected.
A few moments later.
Yeah, looks like it's all done. It is running last couple of tests. Let it complete. This is almost done. So now let me just compact this and let's see whether any query that we ask is going to use Graphify. Let me ask a question. How do we generate SEO optimized titles for the YouTube video that we are processing as a part of this particular agentic workflow that we have created? And you can immediately see now that it started using the Graphify skill to query the database about this. Yeah, it is giving the exact detail that I needed. Can even go ahead and ask another question. Can you highlight the relevant communities in the Graphify so that I can view them in the graph.html file. Ideally speaking, it should uncheck the irrelevant communities and only check those relevant communities, and I should be able to view which are the relevant files and calls that are related to the question that I had asked. I think I have run out of codex messages. So let me open it in the Chrome browser, and yeah, you can immediately see which ones are related to the title generation. So this is how you use Graphify in the project. And as I had said, you have to be careful about the tokens that you will run out initially while doing the setup. But once you do it, it is going to definitely save you a lot of tokens. So that's it in this particular video. If you are using any such tools like Graphify to basically have a better cartographer of your code base, do let me know what you use and what has been your experience of using those tools. Thanks for your time. Take care. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.